You're listening to Veeam Partner Perspectives with Eric Doherty.
Welcome to the Veeam Partner Perspectives podcast. I'm Eric Doherty. My guest today is Drew Schlussel, the Senior Director of Product Marketing for one of the fastest growing public cloud storage providers, Wasabi. Welcome to the show, Drew. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, where you've come from, what you've done in your career, and what your current role at Wasabi is?
Yeah, absolutely. Eric, thanks for having me. Um, so I guess the short and sweet of it is I've been in storage my entire career, believe it or not. This goes back to days at Sun Microsystems, Quantum, Infinidat, of course, EMC. I think everybody who's worked in storage has worked in EMC at
Yeah.
one point in time. I've been around the horn, engineering manager, product marketing manager, product management, um, you name it. I think I've done it. And don't tell the police. So, uh, and now, working at Wasabi, loving working in cloud storage and just having a blast, having a blast.
I would say that's for sure, because the time when we met and the time that we had then, that was a blast. So Drew and I met for the first time at Veeam this past year, and had rather a rousing good time, I'd say. Some nice
Yeah.
dinners, some nice hanging out at the hotel bars afterwards, the casino bars. It was a good time. So very excited to have made your acquaintance then, because I think that it's led to a lot of great things since then. And just knowing you're quite a character. So I'm happy to even just know you, regardless of knowing you through Wasabi and your work.
Appreciate that. Yeah. First of all, Veeam was spectacular. Well done. And I think it was really kind of the first, back to real life show.
Yeah.
And you could tell everybody was stoked to be out of the house,
Yes.
right? Great
No
venue.
restrictions. You could really. I guess they were checking to see if people had tests if they're coming internationally, but it was wide open for everybody else, as far as I know. It was
Oh
just
yeah.
kind of like the first time it felt normal in a long time.
Yeah. And the bar downstairs at the Aria was just, I swear there was people still there when I got up the next morning to head to my first session, and more power to them.
Yeah. I don't know how they did it. And that, there were people that I know operated on 2, 3 hours sleep. I was a good boy. I felt like the good boy, because I'd go to bed by like 1:30, 2 o'clock. And I was like one of the first ones bailing out half the night. So I'm like, man, y'all are troopers. I'm just not that guy anymore. But it was a lot of fun. And I hope that this year, I hope I get to go, and I hope that it's, if it's even a fraction as much fun as it was last year, we'll have a good time.
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but we're actually, in quick plug for those who don't, depending on the time you're doing this, we're doing our Veeam update on November the 1st, I do believe, where we're going to kind of just give some updates on some of the topics we covered there, and a little more on V12, which we'll talk a little bit about today.
Yeah.
So there's my shameless plug for other things, but it's hard to do a timed plug on a podcast that's recorded and listened to anywhere. But there you go. So for folks that don't necessarily know Wasabi yet, which I can't imagine there's too many left, but there's probably some. Can you share the background of the company and what's led to the great success that you're having now and has been building for a while?
Yeah, absolutely. So Wasabi was founded by the same gentleman that founded Carbonite a while back, Dave Friend and Jeff Flowers. So they know a little something about cloud storage. And their premise was, we can do this better, easier at a significantly lower cost. And of course, things being what they were with COVID, right? There was a surge of demand for cloud services because getting somebody to come install another rack, install another array was not easy, right?
It's darn near
And
impossible. Yeah.
absolutely. And so, the business had been running for a couple years already, and it just took off. And the first of all, the price gets everybody's attention, right? We're like a fifth the price of AWS S3
Mm-hmm.
um, standard, and the beauty there is, right, no egress fees, no API fees. Um,
The two things that are hardest to predict when you're doing your budgeting.
Impossible to
Yeah.
predict. And in fact, great examples came out of, the healthcare space, right? There was massive data sets being egressed for various research going on. And the research institutes were getting hammered with
Mm.
massive bills. And it was then and only then that they discovered the fine print on, all these additional charges for what they thought was this, kind of cold, deep, and cheap cloud storage. And so, lessons learned. And now folks are kind of, rebalancing where they put, their short and long term data,
Yeah.
given, some insights into what it really costs them.
Yeah, it's interesting because I find when people are talking about long-term data and using those archive tiers that they have, it's like don't ever plan on using it. It's got to be stuff that you never want to get to because you're going to wipe out your savings in one restore or one pullback of that data possibly, plus the time spent to do it.
Yeah, I think, and that's the big difference between the IT operations team and the actual business unit, right? The IT ops team believes that the data is going to go and never going to move,
Hmm.
and they're going to capitalize on the lowest possible price. The business unit is going to do whatever the heck they want. And
Yeah.
when they need that data, they're going to grab it. And in most cases, when those, cold and deep tiers, if you egress, I don't know, about 10% of that a year, you're spending more than if you were just used a standard tier,
Hmm.
especially if you just use a standard tier from Wasabi.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, those folks are starting to kind of open their eyes to the fact that, a single tier has its advantages to a multi-tier system where A, they don't know where their data is, and B, they don't know when they're going to get it back. I think that's another thing that Wasabi capitalized on is when people want their data, they want it now,
Yeah.
not 4 hours. And
Right.
they
Yeah.
don't
They got into the cloud so they didn't have to worry about the truck rolling with the tapes to bring them back to your prem. Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Iron Mountain does a great job, but I worked at Quantum, I worked with tape, and I heard all the various nightmare scenarios.
Yeah.
You can't lose cloud storage; it's always there.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's, yeah, I mean, the ridiculous number of nines of availability or um, stability of it,
Right.
it's going to be there.
I think the other thing that's been tremendous success for us is our partnership with Veeam.
Hmm.
And again, the fact that the storage service that we provide at such a great price, it enables Veeam customers to back up more of their data and to keep it longer.
Yes.
Besides
Retain
backup,
it properly. Whereas before finances might have kept them from doing it.
absolutely. No, they don't have to make sacrifices in terms of what they want to do. They can have the best backup program that they've always wanted. And then, of course, retention for compliance is beginning to ramp up more and more because more and more legislation is being put in place to require people to keep data longer and be able to bring it back faster. Um, so, for instance, in the marijuana industry, when you first of all you have to have surveillance video,
Oh, yeah.
and yeah,
Makes sense.
uh, and you have to store it for a number of years. And when the regulators stop by, they can demand to see, a handful of minutes or hours, and you have to fulfill that request on the spot. You can't just say, "Come back tomorrow, and I'll have that back for you to look at."
Hmm.
So there's certain peculiarities in how they've structured that compliance requirement that old and cold and deep isn't going to cut it. So we're seeing a lot of pickup in that space as well. Surveillance, not necessarily the marijuana industry, although that certainly is a part of the business.
Exactly. Well, and that, like you said, I mean, that's surveillance. And it's interesting to hear regulatory bodies sounding like they're getting ahead or at least parallel with the technologies. Usually they're the last ones to catch up, but the fact they're saying, no, I need this immediately and I don't care what the price is to you, that's so different than you typically hear. Usually they're the last ones to catch up, be like, oh, we need to see it within 24 hours. But that makes such a difference. And you're seeing that more with probably in municipalities with police body footage cams and things like that, where they need to keep that stuff and they need to make sure nothing happens to it and it's
Yep.
available whenever. That's becoming more popular sometimes for all the wrong reasons, but at the same rate, yeah, the best defense that they can have is here's what actually happened. Here's the actual video of it, and we can provide it immediately and stop an issue from happening.
Well, and the good news for Veeam is that stuff also has to be backed up.
Yes,
You can't just have one copy,
correct.
because we're seeing and hearing, first of all, ransomware attacks, right? Your
Mhm.
data being encrypted away from you. Also, people trying to steal credentials and commandeer your accounts, right?
Yep.
Keep you from your data. So the need for backup just continues to grow, of course, as the use of data in various forms continues to multiply.
Yeah, and you brought up an interesting thing with ransomware, and one of the great features that you also bring that we need to make sure we highlight is the immutability of that data. That's that's the first question. What are we doing for ransomware? Mutability. You say those two buzzwords, and if you can't answer yes, we can help you with both of those, you're probably not going to continue the conversation. So that immutability
Yep.
is critical, and the fact that using it with Veeam, you could do an immediate copy of that data to that. So if you can't, if you're at a place where you can't make the changes to have that immutable storage on prem, at least you can do immediate copies to an immutable storage off prem right away, which is really a good thing, which leads to something we've been talking about with the old zip code that Veeam has, the 32110, which for the uninitiated is not a cheap knockoff of a 90s teen drama. It's a so it's 3 copies of your data on 2 different media types, one of them offsite, one of them offline, and no errors is the 0. So that means testing your things, which is a topic for another day. But when we talk about that zip code, we're changing the way things are going in version 12 because we're talking about being able to go direct to object. And we've already been playing with this in our hands-on labs. Another shameless plug for our hands-on labs. Check them out. They're great. We have a V12 beta up where you actually do a direct-to-object storage, backup, and recovery using Wasabi, actually. So that's something that's totally changing the way that different businesses, especially the smaller ones, there's a couple ways that it's changing it. Number one, for those smaller ones. Number two, we're going to be adding in the ability to direct to object on our agents. So think of all those mobile people that we sent out into the wild 2 years ago, and we have no idea what's on their machines, and getting them to connect into the corporate network to get backed up is almost impossible. Maybe you build extra infrastructure to try and catch those. Now you have the ability to go direct to object, and even as a personal use, I back my stuff up, my home stuff up using my Wasabi account and that beta of that agent so that I can know that I have a copy of everything I need that's not in my house. I used to do 2 hard drives off of my NAS to send out elsewhere. And that elsewhere was at my mom's house, who lived like 5 miles away from me. She moved. The second hard drive's been sitting in my basement ever since she moved 5 years ago. Not so good. So I'm not following it until I got object storage going again. So yeah, talk to me a little bit about the way that game's going to change, and really how we're changing that zip code because we're reducing some of the need for some of those different copies.
Yeah. So I think as part of that zip code, there's also the expectation of an immutable copy, right?
That kind of goes. I lump that in with the one offline because if you can't read it, if you can't damage it, I don't care if you can read it. I'm more worried
Got it.
about you writing it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So this was, and this is, I think we started this conversation at Veeam with just kind of the idea of, okay, so there's other dynamics happening right now. Supply chain is and will continue to be for the foreseeable future, a block for folks either implementing a backup program or expanding their backup program. So, what do they do? Part of that is leveraging cloud storage. And then the question becomes, is there an opportunity for some folks to go straight to cloud? And if they do go straight to cloud, how does the zip code change? Right? Are they going to, do they need on prem? Most folks would argue yes. And this is, you know, these are ideas we bounced around. And I think the ideas got better and better as, the, the, the folks brought us the second, third, and fourth rounds of drinks. Um,
That's how it usually works.
but is it viable, and is it reasonable, and should you do it, and do you need to now have multiple cloud service providers, right? Should your redundancy be cloud based versus just an on-prem with a copy in the cloud? Because the on-prem, I think, is the most vulnerable place right now.
I agree.
um, you know eh, the attacks are going after the primary systems and the backup systems. That's how they maximize the ransom
Hmm.
request. And once they have your credentials through whatever means that they're snooping on your network, or they've got admin access, what have you. um, the immutable object, forget about cloud for a moment, immutable object becomes your last line of defense. And I
Yes.
think it's brilliant, right? That V12 is going to have, you know, direct to object, because now you can go direct to object on prem. You'll be more secure, and you'll have the performance, as well as it's as easy for smaller organizations to just go straight to cloud and not have to manage on prem anymore.
Yeah, and some of the things we've improved our backup and restore engines so that for customers of that size, and even if it, just in general, um, you have a better ability to restore that data and to get it out to that cloud directly. So you're not, even going off prem right away and skipping the on prem copy. Um, you have the ability to do that, and the performance is pretty good. I mean, yes, we're using smaller data sets in our hands-on lab, but you get the general idea. These things are possible, and it's not just to show it for demo's sake. If that's the direction you really want to go as a smaller company, and it really shows off the flexibility that our product has and your product has in the ability to work for the smaller companies all the way up through the extremely large enterprises.
Sure.
Um, that's something I think, and I think that mobile workforce is something that I really want to see people start to think more about, because yes, everybody should be putting all their data in. Maybe you have rules in place so that they're only putting their data in their OneDrive folder as opposed to dropping it on something else, so that you're backing it up through our Office 365 product, which we need to talk about how that works with your solution as well. But there's different ways you can do that. But if you just wanted to make sure you can get a full backup of that into some cloud location, I mean, that direct to cloud, anything goes direct to object. And that's something, and you just heard me do it. I'm so bad at doing this. And when I say object, I say cloud. But they became synonymous for years, and they're kind of getting decoupled. But when I say direct to object, direct to Wasabi, that's a huge solution to be able to do. And I think that seems to be the biggest thing that folks are talking about with our upcoming version as well. It sounds like you guys are hearing it too.
Oh yeah. No, we're looking forward to it, because it really gives us another opportunity to highlight the partnership, right?
Yep.
And to also just continue to expand on the value of cloud storage, cloud object
Yep.
storage. Not everybody wants to run a data center. In fact, I would say most startups today are coming in with the attitude of, how do I avoid at all costs, right?
Yeah.
Having to have any boxes, in any physical presence. Um,
Yes. I would agree. Most startups are going cloud first because it's pay as you scale, as opposed
yep.
to trying to predict, especially now. If I started a company today and got told that I couldn't get infrastructure for 200 days, did I really just start my company today?
Yeah.
I might start in my company 200 days from now when I can actually start processing data.
Yep.
So I totally agree with that. And I hit on it a second ago about how you tie in with our Office. I'm sorry, it's Microsoft 365 solution now. So we've constantly been increasing our cloud public object storage capabilities within that solution. So you obviously integrate with that as well. I actually run it in my lab using your solution.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that product, right, Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365, is the kind of the precursor for what VBR will do in V12.
Hmm.
Because for can I call it VBM? Um, you
I
know,
think we go with VB365 for probably
365.
obvious reasons.
Okay. Um, uh, it's direct to it, you can go direct to on-prem, you can go direct to cloud object.
Hmm.
And again, it makes perfect sense, especially for the fact that you've also got a whole, slew of, service providers running Veeam,
Yes.
and right, they want to take advantage of, and in fact, in some cases, they resell Wasabi, and it's just so simple. I mean, yes, you said something earlier about the data sets right now are kind of small, but look, once you get past that initial silvering, and I'm dating myself by referring to it that way, right? But once you get past that initial seeding, right,
Yeah,
as long as your rate of change isn't like 30, 40, 50%, you're really not pushing a lot of data.
it's true.
And I think one of the things that's just phenomenal about your backup product for Microsoft 365 is the plethora, I love that word, the plethora of ways that you can recover your data. And you're typically talking about getting back, right? A file, a folder, you're not talking about, petabytes of restore here, right? If you're restoring a terabyte, that's massive, in my opinion.
Something
And
very bad had to have
that's
happened for you to be doing that anyway, right? So you
something
already
very
have a lot
bad
of other
happened.
issues.
There's been a lot of cussing and discussing going
Yeah,
on,
yeah. I'm
for
guessing a few
sure.
people are looking for new jobs.
Uh, you know, that PEBCAC, right?
Yeah.
Problem exists between keyboard and chair.
Yep.
That's the number. You guys put out the survey, right? That's the number one
Yep.
cause of data loss.
I break it down to three different categories. So we have all these like 8 reasons why, 9 reasons why, however many reasons why. I break it down to three basic categories: good people doing dumb things, bad people doing evil things, and the law is telling you to do something. That's really the three categories that it comes down to. That you can expand within them, but that to me that's the three.
I like that.
Yeah, it's easier to remember off the top of your head. People
Three,
can
three,
remember three things.
three is the magic number.
That's exactly right.
Three is the
Um,
magic
so,
number.
so we've talked about different customer sizes. Do you guys have a sweet spot that you're finding, or is it really you're hitting it for everybody right now?
Yeah, we are covering the board right now. We've got phew, thousands upon thousands of mutual customers, and they're using anywhere from 15 to 50 terabytes, kind of on average. And then we've also got some very large enterprise customers using hundreds upon hundreds of terabytes. And then, we're also, like I said, we're working in the surveillance space where we've got, petabytes of storage per account, and also doing a lot of work in media and entertainment, which is something that,
Mm.
we're talking with you guys about coming along and introducing you to some of our friends, because, they're, they thank you 4K and 8K.
I was going to say, movies aren't on film that's kept in old salt mines anymore, is it?
No,
No.
I mean, this was the fun part about working at Quantum, is I got an education about the growth of data sets, and LTO3 to LTO4 to where we are today. It never goes backwards.
Data
Um,
doesn't get smaller.
Now,
It's constant growth.
it's just like the universe, right? Continuing
Mhm.
to expand. And I'm sure some scientists will figure out someday that there is a corollary between the expansion of the universe and the expansion of the global data set.
We need more space for the data. That's what it is.
My concern is energy. Like, will we have
Yeah.
enough energy to support, all this data that we want to have at our fingertips? Um, so yeah, that we'll
That's an
save that
interesting
conversation.
topic to think about. Yeah, but that's an interesting one that most
Yeah.
folks, it's come up a lot, obviously, with all of the Bitcoin mining and everything lately. But um, yeah, just in general, our lives are taking more electricity than they ever have, and our lives are stored on that electricity in essence.
Well, interestingly enough, right? Bitcoin is based on proof of work.
Hmm.
You have the up and coming blockchain based on proof of space, right? The
Hmm.
Chia network, and that we kind of intersected with that for just a little bit, and then the price cratered, and nobody's been mining online. But I do think at some point, right, that's where cryptocurrency runs into a wall,
Yeah,
because you like other things in life, you have to prioritize where is that energy going to go. Is it going to go to a hospital, or is it going to go to a crypto farm?
right.
Right? I'm
Yeah,
I'm gonna guess it's gonna go to the hospital.
I'd like to think it would.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, I'm with you
that
there.
would be my world anyway. I don't know if I'm in charge. We'll make sure the hospital keeps the lights on and the
Yeah,
respirators and things like that. That'd be
all that
important.
good stuff
Yeah,
for
exactly.
sure.
Exactly. We've talked about the data growth. You guys have grown recently too. You've had some announcements over this past year of an expanded footprint.
Yes, so we are worldwide, 13 locations. We've got coverage in North America, including Canada, Europe, and the Asia Pacific theater. So opened up some new vaults. The Australia team is going gangbusters. Singapore is lit up. It's fantastic. And then to pile onto that, we just closed our D round and have achieved unicorn status.
Oh, congratulations on that.
Yes, yes. So
And
I,
just the entire growth. I mean, for data sovereignty, I mean, that
yeah,
puts you right up there with everybody. That you are truly, once you start doing that, you truly are global because that conversation is cut short.
well, absolutely, and that's the thing, right? Is first of all, locality of reference, right? Going back to, is this a viable place to store my data and get it back when I need it? But then there's
Mhm.
also the data sovereignty,
Yeah,
and more and more countries are imposing restrictions, regulations that their citizens' data must reside right within the physical boundaries of that country.
yeah, and only within the physical boundaries.
Yeah, I find that a little ridiculous, honestly. I think that's just a
Yeah,
way to promote commerce and get the money spent in country, right?
yeah, because these are the
Because
same folks. They're saying that, and then it's like, well, okay, and then they go browse and put their data in globally anywhere. So
yeah, I
yeah,
mean, I'm a huge fan of Neil Stephenson and his book Cryptonomicon. If you haven't read it, read it. Fantastic story. Um, but the premise of the book is a couple of entrepreneurs trying to build a data haven in the Philippines, and the idea is essentially they actually have like a cryptocurrency element tied into it. But if it were me, right, I mean, Iceland would probably be the place to put one of the largest data centers in the world because the energy is essentially free.
yeah,
So there's my prediction. Mark my words, Iceland will be the next massive data center for the world.
like change your flags to having server racks on
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Hey, whatever pays the bills, right? So
It's all
the so I we've played, obviously we use Wasabi in our labs and everything, and we've been told about different things. Like as a Veeam customer, you're kind of special with Wasabi. You get some different things that you may not necessarily get at other places or with other solutions. Can you tell me a little bit about those kinds of things? Because I think that that's something that gets missed when we're talking about these solutions with partners as they're trying to sell them. Is there's some things that work better with Wasabi than they may elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you know, all of Veeam's SEs and SAs have a Wasabi account.
Yep.
It's part of our partnership, and we want to make sure that you have every opportunity to not only play with it, but to use it as part of your POCs. And we think that's pretty important because we've figured out that with anybody else to do a backup and to demonstrate the restore, it could be thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And that's, that becomes a blocker, right? That slows down the sales motion, right?
Yeah.
Um, then there's the question of retention. And if you are a Veeam and Wasabi customer, we will waive the 90-day retention, and you can do 30-day retention, which is the same offer that we provide for our reserve capacity customers.
Hmm.
And so for a lot of folks, that is a deal maker. Um,
Yeah. That's an important piece to remember because that's something that totally changes the playing field, I think, with the competition, because that's,
Absolutely.
the data changes, data deletes, you only keep so much.
That's right. That's right.
That's
So,
huge.
and then of course, we've got that kind of better together approach where our support team is very attuned um, to any requests that come in that are Veeam related. We've got an outstanding mutual support agreement in place. Really work together as a team to make sure that if there is any hiccups, and I'll just call them hiccups, because usually it's it's usually a PEPCAC issue,
Yeah.
it's or an RTFM issue.
Hmm.
Um, it's that's the beauty of, I think, both products is it's so simple.
Hmm.
Um, and when it is that simple, the problems are simple. Um, and I read religiously the different posts in the support forums, and yeah, it's nice to work on a product that is so easy to describe, to explain the value, and to support going forward. So
That's well, that is so important because they're obviously, we want as few calls to support as possible, but the fact that we have that joint capability makes the solutions that much easier. And really, I mean, I see Wasabi as do something and do it really well. Don't try and be all things to all people. Do this thing and do it well, and you've accomplished that,
there,
in my opinion. Because like
yeah,
I said, I'm a big fan of the solution.
we're constantly being asked, so what else are you going to do? We're not.
Yeah.
What do you mean? We're going to do this. We're going to do cloud object storage, and we're going to be the best at it in the world, right? A little lofty, but
Yeah.
you're going to see this coming forward. By the way, we've got some new campaigns rolling out, and there is something very encouraging when one company does one thing incredibly well. We don't sell books, we don't produce movies, right? Uh, we don't sell spyware that sits on your desks masquerading as a personal Jarvis, right? We're not listening to your conversation. We're just giving you cloud storage at a
Yep.
great price.
Yep.
Imagine that.
I know. And it's been a heck of a model for you. How can
Yeah.
our partners get started working with Sabi for those that haven't? But I know a lot have and know the story. But how can they get started?
Yeah, it's incredibly easy. You can get involved with Wasabi as a reseller for as little as 1 terabyte. You can sign up online, very simple application process. And once you're in, you get access to our partner portal, and you get the secret handshake. You can get briefed on all the capabilities. As a partner, by the way, one of the things that sets us apart is that we have something called Wasabi Account Control Manager. So you have the ability to either through pay as you go or reserve capacity, resell capacity to your customers, either
Mm.
straight up Wasabi, or you could white label it and sell it as your own storage and set the price for whatever you want based on your value add. We give you a turnkey ecosystem to do all that, to manage all that. And we're finding that folks are incredibly enamored with this capability.
Well, that's what
Yep.
people want. They want an easy way to resell, get that monthly recurring revenue up.
Yep.
That's massive.
Yeah, and like I said, right, keep it simple. Or if you want to go through, you want to go through another reseller, you want to go through a disty, we're lined up. Essentially, anybody you can get Veeam with, you can get Wasabi with.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Well, I couldn't
it
make it simpler then.
it's piece of well that was intended.
Good,
Um,
because I know that that's not always the story. So that makes things huge. If you know, you shouldn't make people fight to find you. The
um, sorry,
no,
what'd you
well,
say?
no, I said it shouldn't make them have to fight to find you.
No,
Yeah. So
no.
that's really good. So you already told me before we started you're doing something cool in a couple weeks, and in addition to that, where else, any other events or webinars coming up? So tell us about what you're doing and where you're going to be, because I actually do have listeners over in that area.
Yes. So I'm not even sure. It's a very unique situation. I had the good fortune of meeting Rick Vanover, right? Your community
Yep,
manager
the Rickatron.
extraordinaire, and Rick gave me audience with his Vanguard Legends team a while back, and I extended the same trial account offer to all the Veeam Vanguard and all the Veeam 100. So if you're listening and you're a Veeam 100, you're a Veeam Vanguard, you'd like to give Wasabi a try, and you'd like to try it for more than 30 days, go ahead, sign up, put in promo code Veeam 100, and we'll extend that account in perpetuity, 1 terabyte. Go nuts, have fun, you know, put photos up there, put backups up there, run POCs, whatever you want to do, play with the API, all that great stuff. So kindly, Rick reciprocated and said, "Why don't you come to Prague and meet the rest of the team?" So yeah, going to Prague in a couple of weeks here. Very excited. I've heard just phenomenal things about it. And of course, in the process, I'm taking my microphone with me because I am recording uh, a webinar with Dave next week, Dave Russell.
Great.
We've got some campaigns running right now promoting the backup from Microsoft 365. So Dave and I are going to be talking to Christophe Bertrand with ESG, and yeah, we're just keeping the conversation going, letting folks know what is possible, and
That's excellent, and that's kind of really how that's that's the purpose of what I'm doing here. But really, just keep having the conversation. Make sure people that know what the solutions are, the flexibility, the capabilities that they have. And there's one thing you and I need to figure out how to do this, but we need to do a promotional event. Wasabi sponsors Liverpool in the English
yes,
Premier League. We
yes,
need
we
to
do.
figure out how we can finagle an event that gets us from the East Coast of the United States and Denver area. You're near Denver, you're Colorado area.
Yes.
How we can get ourselves invited to a Wasabi event at a Liverpool match.
Well, there is an event already in the works, by the way,
Oh,
for the local Veeam team in the UK. So if we can kind of massage your geographic responsibilities, we can see about squeezing you in there. But yeah, absolutely.
I probably have a better chance of going to one of the Boston events, which I've missed because that's where your headquarters is. I've missed every one that you've had this year, so I might have to come up if you do a Bruins one.
Uh, let me know when you're heading to Boston, and if the Bruins are in town, because we're also in the TD Garden with the Bruins and the Celtics.
Yes,
Um, Let me know, and we'll hook you up.
that sounds awesome. One last question for you, kind of off the cuff that I ask and I don't let you prepare for is trying to give some life advice to folks. If you could give one piece of advice to your 25-year-old self, what would it be?
Oh man. Um, boy, I have so many smart ass answers that I don't want to give you. Um, strangely enough, I mean, at that time of my life, I had a phenomenal boss and mentor at Sun Microsystems, and he said to me, he called me Drewster. That was his nickname for me. He said, Drewster, look, you're in a great industry, storage, data storage. It's never going to go away. And the more you put into this, the more you're going to get out of this as time goes by. Essentially, he was saying, stick with it. He said, you're a good communicator. You understand the business side of the things. You understand the technical side of things. You can help explain one to the other. He goes, stay with storage. He said, you'll make it. You'll have a great career. And he was absolutely right. And, here I am now just having an absolute blast because I built, decades of experience and had, met so many great people like yourself along the way and made the most of it. So I guess that's my hokey answer for you.
That's a great answer, though. I mean, yeah, if it's not the same industry you were in when you were 25,
Absolutely
but
not.
like you said, it's here, and that's huge. So,
Yeah,
Drew, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with me. Looking forward to seeing you in person again soon. We have to figure that out, but I appreciate it, and best of luck with everything, and best of luck in Prague. I think you'll have a blast, and I think you'll get a lot of great exposure there.
absolutely. Thanks, Eric. Thank you so much for having me on today.
This has been Veeam Partner Perspectives with Eric Doherty. Thank you for listening.